100x. Oh no. Oh yes, we are live. What is going on, fellas?
Da-na-na-na. Happy New Year, happy holidays.
My hair, man.
Yeah, your hair's a mess, dude.
Jesus.
You know that hair's a mess, but the sweater is on point, so I'll give you some points there, man.
Yeah, it takes away from my hair, that's why I put it on. But yeah, the boys are back in town.
Big time.
The boys are back in town, man. We're ready for 2020. We got everything rolling for this episode. We've been gone for about 2 weeks, so we appreciate you guys waiting around. I know we dropped that wax episode that hopefully you guys enjoyed. Although a ton of people unsubscribed from that episode. I think there was like a lot of EOS lovers that maybe aren't fans of wax that they were like, nah, I don't want to do this. But that was a good episode with Malcolm, man. So we got a ton of good stuff to talk about. It's been 2 weeks, so we kind of mashed the episode together. A lot breaking actually with TRON, but before we get to that, did you guys have any team updates?
I don't think so, man. I don't think so. It's been a hell of a year. We got a fun little kind of 2019 game we're going to play. So Dima, start thinking about essentially what was your favorite piece of news or event or whatever during 2019, and we'll all share. But yeah, I mean, let's get right into it. I know Q has not been happy with the Bitcoin Reddit, essentially. So go ahead, tell us what's the issue.
Well, the only reason I added that is because we like to share that we're doing this content, and we appreciate everybody that's out there sharing the content to their friends and families and whatnot. But we do our own sharing of the content here. We like to, go on Reddit, go on Twitter, just hit it all, right? Distribute our content as wide as possible. Shotgun approach here. But the subreddit Bitcoin mod completely banned us when we did that. And this was a Layer1Live episode where we talked about Bitcoin. But basically, right when I dropped the episode in that Bitcoin subreddit, they said shitcoin video, just all the way down the page. And the mod came in and swiftly banned us. So, a proper FU to the people behind the subreddit Bitcoin blog. But
yeah, I guess evidently that's been heavily censored for some time. It's a strange world, the Bitcoin Reddit.
Yeah, I think Reddit in general has been, pretty tough now.
Yeah,
I haven't been really part of Reddit, since the beginning, but right now starting on Reddit, it's like, dude, you have to do so much work to be able to even post anything.
Yeah,
I'm beginning to think that Bitcoin maximalists are some of the most evil people on the planet. I don't know what it is. Obviously, Bitcoin's been the king forever, but we had that little bit of altcoin run, and I think they're almost hurt by that run that happened, and now they kind of are back on the throne. But
yep.
yeah. I mean, just wanted to shout out to all of you that are banning us and our content. Thank you. But let's get to the top 5 countries. Dimitri, you've been telling a lot of your friends about this because the Russian Federation actually made it on top of our list. Not on top, but number 4. So we got US, UK, Australia, Russia, Canada in our top 5. Top 3 episodes, we got the Wax episode, we had the IDEX episode that actually killed it on audio, and the Kava episode continuously gets hit up. And then we have upcoming guests, Karma, hopefully get Dallas Rushing here on the podcast shortly. We kind of are in a scramble as we come back from break here to fill this week, so hopefully we can get Dallas on. We do have Zach Brutch from Mana Research, that was your guy, Mike, and then we have Zachy Manian. I'm probably saying that name completely wrong, but from Cosmos. So we have a ton of great guests here after the Cosmos episode as well, but they just haven't been firmly locked in yet.
Yeah, some good stuff coming for sure.
So yeah, Kremlin is watching. You know what's that about? Now they're probably looking for me because it's time for me to go to the army. They can't find me there, so they're probably searching the web, to find me where I'm at.
That 37-year-old. Yeah, that's what they look for.
For clarity's sake, Dimitri is Ukrainian and not Russian. I know when we first met him, he made it a point to let us know that.
Yeah, you got to make that distinction nowadays.
All right, so before we hit the news, we did have that $250 Bitcoin giveaway. We were going to add one person to the list. This was Steven Crypto VRS. So congratulations. We didn't want to say your real name, on air, but Steven Crypto VRS, you have been added to the Bitcoin giveaway. That Bitcoin giveaway is going to be live next week. So we're gonna add one more. So we're gonna have 5 total, and then we're gonna kind of randomize number there and pick a winner. So without further ado, that was pretty much it as far as team updates. So without further ado, you guys take it away, or is it? It can't be me.
No, we got it. No worries. I know
Okay.
you. My man just got off a flight, so we're gonna drink some booze and run with the episode, see what happens. But I guess probably some of the biggest news of today, really breaking, and this has kind of been leading into it a few days beforehand today, but coincidentally, at the same time, TRON unlocked 33 billion of locked TRON or staked TRON, or will unlock it on the 1st of January. They've also announced that they will be acquiring DLive, which is a pretty significant, I would say at this point, streaming service, right, that we've looked into before and is pretty popular within the crypto space. So I know what my thoughts are on it. I might surprise you, but I want to know, what are your overall thoughts on this acquisition and kind of the nature of it with the unlocking of the tokens team?
Yeah, it was an interesting timing of 2 things, right? And also, just kind of reflecting on this year, I know I've talked about the mergers and acquisitions, M&A, right, in the space. We haven't really got that, much of mergers and acquisitions, but Justin Sun has been like, he already did it once. He's planning to do it again, which is like, I mean, dude, like that's pretty good. The guy's making moves. He's acquiring assets, and of course, to do that, you have to liquidate some tokens. So it'll be interesting to see how that's going to be reflected in price, because obviously that's increasing the supply. So that that dilutes the price essentially. But I wonder how he's going to pair it up. So if he's going to pair it up with maybe an airdrop or something that'll be required for you to hold TRON to get it, like they usually do. So therefore, it should minimize the downside pressure on TRON token, because those people who want to get the airdrop or from the acquisition that they're doing, whatnot, should deliver value that offsets maybe the dilution itself. That would be the smart way of doing it.
So you think DLive will have a token?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not a DLive acquisition. Maybe this DLive acquisition is just minor thing. Maybe there's something bigger.
Well, DLive currently does have a token, yeah. So they have.
Do they?
They have the Lino token, and there's a bunch of people that stake Lino, and I don't know the token economics behind it, but I'm certain there's some benefit of staking, to which the Lino holders that are currently staking are probably pissed off at this announcement, because their token is essentially, I'm guessing, going to be replaced by BTT. I'm not positive.
Oh wow.
I'm not really bullish on this news. I liked what DLive was doing. They brought over what was the big streamer they brought over, PewDiePie, on DLive. So they were doing a bunch of cool things, and then they're just going to sell out. And now I don't know if they're leaving or if the team is staying. I think in the article it actually mentioned that the 2 teams were forming together. So I don't know what the hell that means, but not a big fan of this acquisition. But go ahead, Mike.
Damn, no. I mean, I was going to go the other route and say that I think it's a great move for TRON. A lot of people kind of shit on the BitTorrent acquisition, and, they had a ton of drama with some of the BitTorrent founders. So I definitely agree, right? Like, it's going to be important that DLive kind of sticks around and sees that the original vision continues. Like Justin Sun is not going to be able to manage TRON, BitTorrent, Polynex, DLive, and just expect a tweet from every different account and think that it's going to have some kind of measurable difference. But if they can pull it off and have multiple large projects under the TRON brand that somehow delivers value to TRON and the TRON brand and the TRON token, I think they position themselves right up there as a main competitor with ETH.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. I mean, it's funny because like Q, you were talking about how the Lino token holders might be pissed because this happened where, as you know, Dimitri, in the traditional financial market, generally some sort of acquisition like this happens and that underlying stock, would boom,
would pop. Yeah.
People might bet against the merger happening or something like that, but for the most part, the value would go up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a weird world. I think it's funny that this happened like right at the end of the year, versus kind of waiting more towards the halving.
Mm-hmm.
But it's it'll be interesting.
They unlocked what? There's like 400 something million, I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So at a penny and a quarter, it's about $425 million worth of TRON. If you're going to sell all of that into dollars to buy DLive and for expenses and all that, I mean, that's a ton of selling pressure.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's weird, right? Like there's obviously some sprinkles of like, hey, this is a TRON move. So it's not going to be perfect. Yeah. Everybody's not going to be happy with it.
But what's really interesting is that TRON has been known in the industry to have like, these like bots, users, like fake users and stuff, right? But now that they're acquiring these like real assets platforms, right, that have real users, right, then that basically, debunks that the whole issue with having fake users on TRON. So it's a great move by Justin to acquire users, acquire real assets that have value, that will essentially add to the network itself. So I think I agree with you, man. Like I'm on that side of it. It's pretty good for them.
Yeah, to your guys' point, if you can't earn users through your own products, you might as well just buy them if you have the actual capital. But I mean, I hope it goes the way you guys are saying, where the TRON acquisition makes DLive better. I'm just as an up and coming project in the space, like I really just didn't want it to be kind of acquired and then left for dead. I think that's what happened with Coinbase and Earn.com, right? Like Earn.com, they're like sunsetting Earn.com is quote unquote. So if they just buy it and DLive dies and the founder, I would love to know what the founders are doing next if they are moving on, but we'll get more information over the coming days. Certainly that unlock of 33 billion TRON is not the best.
We should get an interview.
Right. That'd be cool to have DLive on for sure. We'll have Ryan back, one of the senior marketing folks from TRON maybe in Q1. But what was I gonna say? I don't know. It's in and out. The drinks are hitting here, but kind of in other news here. Speaking of Coinbase, they're hurting on your DApps. Mr. Q, what's going on?
Yeah, so I guess the story came out that Coinbase Wallet was going to disable a DApp browser function. So that most of us use probably Token Pocket when we're looking to use a mobile wallet. They have that DApp browser function. Certainly like Scatter does that as well via web browser. But Coinbase Wallet is going to disable their DApp browser to be compliant with the Apple Store. So this seems like I don't think Apple changed their policies at all. It was more Coinbase kind of saying, hey, in order to be under the current policy, we need to disable this DApp browser. It's still going to be available for their Coinbase Wallet on web browser, which is perfectly. I don't understand the situation behind that, but I like using dApps through. I think Pete had said this when the story first came out. He was responding to somebody posting the article, but Pete Key at Liquid Apps, he was saying that actually dApps that work on web browser are better UX anyways. It's just a better experience than experiencing dApps on mobile, at least at this point. So not too big news, but I mean, it'll be interesting to see how Apple and Google Play attack crypto and decentralized apps going forward.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, because I think the news on crypto Twitter, or at least the fear after hearing this news, has been that okay, we have this concept of a decentralized application, but if the kind of gatekeepers to the mobile, marketplaces say no, there's, what are you going to do? It doesn't matter if the app is decentralized at all. If Apple doesn't want it, if Google doesn't want it, you're kind of out of luck. And Coinbase, as somebody you would hope to be somebody who would fight for a decentralized app, has basically, just shifted away from that in an effort to not lose their spot with Apple, which to me shows you how poor that setup is, where you're even Coinbase, I bet, let's say they don't get rid of that DApp, piece on their wallet and they get banned, right? Even Coinbase probably can't talk to a real person. And then, you go into the halving and you can't get Coinbase Wallet on your iPhone or Android. Holy hell, here comes every other major exchange with a mobile app, and it's a giant disaster. So, it's I don't know, man. It's a weird world across the board with regulation hitting. I know that's a next story on France here that we'll talk about.
But before we get to that, Barry did say, I have never liked or trusted Tron, but they have made a lot of moves in the past 2 years in this bear market. They have positioned themselves well for the coming boom times. So that's an important comment. I know we kind of skipped on to Coinbase, but yeah, that I would tend to agree with that, Barry. But yeah, let's talk France, and let's talk oh my God, an ICO. Go ahead.
Breaking news, guys. ICOs are back. So if you guys have been waiting for your time, if you're trying to take advantage of ICOs, like the ones that you missed back in the day, you have another opportunity to do this because France is coming out of the gates. First approved ICO by France. Basically, it's a platform that lists ICOs.
It's a trusted platform.
Yeah, it's the first trusted ICO listing platform. So,
do they do reports?
No, but I don't know if they do ratings too. That would be interesting.
I said that's when you short it. Whenever the ratings start, sell it all.
True. Yeah. True. If for those of you that don't know, we all worked at ICO Alert, so you're gonna hear a lot of inside ICO Alert jokes here. So yeah.
So it's not gonna be STOs. I want to be correct here. It is, in fact, ICOs that they're doing, and it's approved by the government. And basically, the idea is that they're raising money for this platform now, but eventually they will have a list of ICOs that are going to be coming out, and they're going to have like the ones that are trusted, that are approved by the government, and the ones that are not, that are misleading and not approved by the government, and so on. So it's a pretty interesting piece of news coming out, especially during this time when we came, around from, ICOs to STOs to IEOs to lock drops to a bunch of other stuff. And France is like, ICOs sounds like it needs to come back,
Yeah, 2021 year of the STO. We're just gonna push that back a year.
We've come absolutely full circle. If you told me this morning that we were going to talk about how a literal government body was going to launch an ICO, I would have smacked myself. I don't know. It's just it's so crazy to me. I mean, why this is happening now versus before makes no sense to me. There's got to be something going on behind the scenes that we're not hearing about that kind of lend some reason for this to be happening, because otherwise it's like, why? I just don't see the need for it. I mean, obviously we're not in France, we're not French, right? Maybe there's some giant problem with the way that small businesses are raising money or something, but I don't know. It seems like one of those things where next week we're going to be like, hey, by the way, that was completely false. Thanks, CoinDesk, or whatever.
Scott Harris asked, ICOs deployed on ETH. So is this ICO sale running through like ETH contracts, Dimitri? Do you know?
Yeah, I think so, because they have ETH blockchain. Listed on their site. So yeah, the ICO sale starts in 61 days, guys. Mark your calendars. You don't want to miss this one.
Sign up for our email.
Oh my goodness!
Throw an email campaign in there.
Certic is on there.
Yeah, Certic is on there. So anyway, the website is french-ico.com.
Gotcha.
You can check it out, read the white paper. It's in French. I mean, so I can't really give you guys the insights on it, but that's the latest on the ICO.
Wow.
side.
Bam.
I'm shocked and appalled.
We're in and out of ICOs, guys. We're moving on to the next topic. This is kind of a non-breaking news. If we had Layer1Live last week, this would have been like number one breaking news. YouTube banning crypto content on its platform. Now, this was kind of a heated debate. There's definitely two sides that have kind of staked their flag, if you will, when this did happen. But if you guys were living under a rock for the past week, YouTube kind of erroneously removed content from Twitter that or their YouTube platform that had to do with cryptocurrency and blockchain talk. Now, we didn't get any content removed. There's people questioning kind of like how they went about this. There had to be some algorithm. It wasn't like one guy or even a team of people like going through these videos and deleting them. But there may be something with like referrals, or maybe they talked about the actual sale of a crypto currency. So no one knows like actually how they went through this, but it ended up like 4 or 5 days later, they were like, hey, this was actually an accident. Like we didn't mean to do this. So we're going to reinstate all of those videos that were kind of taken away. But in that amount of time, there was an argument to be made on both sides. Like, hey, like they shouldn't be banning content. This is an example of like centralized authorities kind of banning freedom of speech and yada, yada, yada. And then there's the other side of the argument, which I tend to fall on, where a lot of these videos were absolute shit. They were just, it was like the guy who was promoting Hex and saying like 1 week, I forgot what his name was, and I'd love to look this guy up.
Oh, yeah.
I want to meet this guy in real life, because literally one picture, one thumbnail is, you guys need to get into Hex, and it's just like him like this or something like that. And then literally a week later, he's like, why I'm not promoting Hex anymore. And those type of people suck. Like, those type of people absolutely suck. I think Ivan on Tech got banned. So like that would be one where I would say, hey, like I think Ivan does a good job. I don't know, maybe he had a couple videos where he's showing a referral link, but overall, like I'm definitely on the side of not YouTube, but get the damn like flush the swamp out.
Yeah.
Man. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No. I mean, just to clarify on the Ivan one, I think once he responded to it, everybody was like, oh, this is for real, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like something's going on, because he took like a proactive approach and moved all his videos to private. So I guess you couldn't see him. So it's basically, the equivalent of getting rid of them essentially on YouTube. But yeah, I mean, crypto Twitter was full of like, semi-famous YouTubers who were like, I have 2 kids and just hired a guy, and now you're banning my stuff. And yeah, it was crazy. I mean, the other side, kind of the tinfoil hat conspiracy theory side, was that YouTube was literally testing this because they're going to come out with their own, reward token, or something like that, kind of a la Facebook, whenever Facebook banned cryptocurrency ads. And then we're like, oh, hey, here's Libra. And by the way, crypto's okay. We love it. Yeah. So stay tuned for that. If we see that in like 9 months from now, you'll know that this wasn't an accident kind of deal, at least from that perspective. It's not one that I necessarily believe. I know those algorithms are kind of like, their own kind of crazy minds at this point. So
yeah, I think so I read something about it, I don't know if it's related, where YouTube basically was implementing certain safety features for kids. And basically when you do streaming, like when you set up streaming on YouTube, you basically ask you questions, is content for kids or not, and then you make the selection. I wonder if the algo, basically had to purge through that, through those that did not mark it right or whatnot. I don't know. So
interesting.
But yeah, so that there's a big movement for that to protect kids against like bad content. Like
kind of like when Twitter had that big birth date thing. Remember the ICO alert? Twitter got banned for a few days because there was they pushed some update live where if your birth date or the section that said your birthday was younger than 13 years, they automatically banned you. Yeah, because that was so people would say, oh, my birthday is the day I joined Twitter a year ago, and then the algorithm would be like, this is a 1-year-old child banned. So
yeah, that's definitely a situation to monitor going forward. We have some comments saying that it definitely was like a deep state trial run is a little bit of a stretch, but that might be something that's actually true. So I'm not gonna harp on that any longer. Mike, make sure you're I'm getting a little bit of static from that mic, so
gotcha.
If you stay at a good distance, I think we're fine. But
there we go.
Didn't want people,
appreciate you.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. Well, we got Hedera Hashgraph. This has been an absolute like ridiculousness, complete shit show. Go ahead, Dima.
Yeah, so Hedera Hashgraph, guys, if you're an investor there, I'm sorry. I say that right off the bat, but basically they can asking for investors to wait longer, to get their token distribution, that they owed. And, you know, I'm sure if you look at their chart for the year, they're down about 92% in price. So I can see how these people might be starting to get impatient, you know, in terms of getting the tokens. And I wonder, like, even if, you know, with the year ending, I wonder if the investors can't even write that off as a loss on their investment, you know, because they didn't technically get the tokens and they can't cash out at a loss, right? So, so basically their capital is stuck, you know, and in a downward movement, you know, pressure of the price. And basically Hedera is saying, hey, guys, chill, let's wait. You know, this thing is going to pop, you know, we're going to come back. But you know, patience is obviously running out, and we've seen, like, you know, issues like where like legal starting to ramp up, where, like, you know, we've seen something like similar to like where when XRP, remember, had that issue where the investors were like trying to sue XRP and like for the stuff, and now Hedera investors are trying to go legal on Hedera and be like, listen, bro, like, where are my tokens, you know?
And these are like big time players that have tokens locked up. This is like these are like private sale funds, right? Isn't this like early private? It's not like open, you know, retail investor, like you are always getting crushed and nobody cares. These are like big time players with their tokens locked up.
Yeah, and just as some context, I guess essentially Hedera, you know, it's not for sure, but I guess they've kind of like, you know, nudged a little bit and we're like, hey, what do you think of this idea? You know, so it sounds like they're going to do it in a way where they will have enough approval from enough people that they feel comfortable moving forward with that route, so that, like you said, they don't get sued. But that's only one of many kind of disaster scenarios that have happened for Hedera. I mean, whenever they're, even before their mainnet launched, they launched testnet like a handful of months ago. And they had a setup where essentially, if I remember it correctly, if you complete certain actions, you know, on the testnet blockchain, you will earn HBAR tokens.
Nice.
But somebody figured out a way to you know, screw up the system, right? To essentially play the system, where they went through and did all of this so quickly and, you know, kind of rapidly, I imagine with some sort of algo or bot or whatnot, that they basically just like drained all of the tokens that were reserved for, you know, all the real users who were supposed to be using this testnet.
Wow.
So they like completely shut it down. And the CTO's response was like, you know, hackers gonna hack. Like, I think we talked about that, you know, at least the three of us whenever it happened. And now you've got, you know, this thing where they don't want to give away any tokens so as to not increase the selling pressure. And at the same time, you know, they have these like kind of council nodes, I guess, which are the main ones that are, you know, validating blocks on the blockchain. And 4 out of 10 of them just went MIA. You know, they just completely went offline and no one had any reason as to why they did it. So
it's not looking good.
Yeah, tough time to be an HBAR fan. I know there's a lot of people that they kind of got in whenever it hit exchanges, but you know, you guys, you got to be careful out there. Who knows? I mean, this stuff is early stage, it's bleeding edge, and it's not easy to launch a network at this point in time.
Yeah, obviously everything we're talking about too, guys, we want to hear back from you guys in the chat currently. If you guys want to leave comments post the video being live, please let us know what's going on in your mind about all of these topics that we have, because obviously the three of us like to chat, but we definitely like hearing from you guys as well. That adds a different dynamic into the situation, as far as Barry calling me out right now for not being the big deep state believer that I need to be, which to be honest, like I believe in that more than I don't, Barry. So you got me on your side a little bit. But we've got Bitcoin news, ETH, EOS, and IOST news, as well as a little bit of TRON at the end, and then we'll do our 2020. Let's go.
Yeah, man, definitely. So this has kind of been a longer term narrative that a lot of people have looked to as a indicator that the new bull market is going to start, and that is Google search terms, right? So as we climbed from 3,200 all the way up to 14K, it was an interesting time because you didn't see Google search terms jump at all. Essentially the Google search terms are supposed to be an indicator that new retail has come to crypto, right? And they're searching what is Bitcoin, they're searching Bitcoin price, they're searching how to buy Bitcoin, right? All of these kind of various Bitcoin Google search terms were dormant. And now all of a sudden, they've started to pop up a little bit, right? So one in particular has been the Bitcoin halving search term. So just Bitcoin halving jumped from a relative number of looks like 82 to about 100, which essentially the way that they do it is they rate 100 as the highest it's ever been. And anything under that, they give it a relative rating. So that's jumped like crazy. How to buy Bitcoin, that general search term, jumped from 49 to 61 in December. So if you go and you look, there's kind of little blips along the Google search term map. And then all of a sudden in December, you see this big kind of bounce. Maybe, people are talking to family at, Christmas or something like that, right? Kind of build in whatever reason you want there. But, just some positive news there. It's good to see some supposed life, at least from an indicator that, kind of your semi crypto fan is hopefully moving back into the space.
Yeah, like the sentiment, basically.
Right.
Yeah, that gets into the bigger conversation I think that we have on this dashboard as well, is whether the Bitcoin halving is a big piece of news and whether that's already priced into what's about to happen, or is it going to be kind of one big event that happens all at once. So that's definitely like a big debate. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say on that. Mike, I'm still hearing a little bit from the mic. I think you got like some technical difficulties today.
That's strange. Let me unplug it and plug it back in. Maybe there's something wrong with it.
All right, Dima, on the clock.
All right. So I mentioned this a little bit on the desk, and it's hard to predict something like this. And a lot of people are asking this question, like, what is going to happen to Bitcoin price, in May? And there's like models out there, and it's like basically says, hey, Bitcoin is going to be anywhere between 1,000 and 100,000. It's like, well, great. I can make a prediction like that too. It's going to be either 0 or it's going to be 100,000. I'm going to be right. So there's really like all these type of like predictions that are happening, but we know this is this is coming up, and a lot of big players know it's coming up. They're not going to be getting into a position like days or months before it, right? They're going to position themselves way ahead for that, as well as miners in the sector as well. They're going to be positioning that like far ahead with the products that we have right now with futures contracts and so on, right? So they're going to be locking in rates, hedging and so on as we approach to the halving. So really, like, I think people's expectations are higher than what it will be when the actual thing happens. And it's all about managing expectations. So some people, might have really high expectations, saying that, hey man, we're gonna cut it in half and doing the halving, and then we're just gonna go to 30K, which is, I don't know, it's a stretch.
Yeah, and if you look at the price data, price history, it doesn't tend to work like that. It takes months after the halving for kind of that bump to kick in. It's been a big topic on crypto Twitter. That's why we brought it up here. I mean, I think that you have to look at it kind of outside of the box, right? And what I mean by that is I think that a lot of people within crypto argue the fact strictly to those who are in crypto, right? Mm-hmm. Like, obviously everybody who is in crypto, whether it's a full-time job or you're focused on this stuff day to day, right? Like, yes, it's very clearly priced in. It's not that somebody who's following crypto on a daily basis all of a sudden is going to wake up in April and be like, oh my God, the halving's 6 weeks away or 8 weeks away, right? And like, no, you've been following this for years, right? Like, clearly, this happens. The whole reason that Bitcoin halving kind of equals pump has traditionally been that as that happens, it's something for, traditional financial media outlets to talk about. And then at the same time, if you get a pump, they will push that narrative to people who maybe heard about crypto back in 2016 or 2017, or those who have not really, dived in yet. So it's kind of like this, it's kind of like this bobber on the water, and everybody who has seen that years and years and years is like, yeah, it's priced in, but you can't really think about it that way.
Yeah. And sorry, just real quick. I wanted to also mention that a lot of the people that are in the industry, on crypto Twitter and so on, talk about those that talk about that it's going to pump, it's going to rise and so on. You have to understand that, they are sitting on probably a big stack of Bitcoin, and a lot of people in our industry sit on a lot of crypto, right? So you have to keep that in mind. If we're all going to be saying, hey, it's going to pump, to each other, then that's really not like, it's kind of a biased view, right? So you have to keep that in mind when you're taking these considerations from people that are sitting on bags and waiting for them to pump, right? So
very fair.
Yeah, it seems a lot like boomer bust, and I did want to get to Scott in the chat. He said no way it's priced in, so we definitely want to hear. Oh, I think he came in with a reason right now. He says as long as the demand for Satoshi stays at current levels, wouldn't the price naturally grow? I would say that yes, like that probably is the case. I would say two things though. To Mike's point, like this is super boomer bust. If the halving is going to happen, if the price goes up at the same time, it's super bullish. Because then they do start reporting on it. People get interested. They're like, it's just natural. But if you have the halving and it doesn't. It goes the other way, right? Like, let's say the price just tanks. They're still going to be reporting on the halving, and then it's going to be downward movement, at least in my mind. So I think, I guess the last point I would make about that is people always talk about this halving in like a positive light, like the supply is going to be cut, like or the rate of the
rewards.
Yeah, rate of rewards and I guess tokens entering into the token supply. But that, like, miners are already having a tough time. Like miners are already leaving the biz. They're already,
right.
Closing up shop, and you're cutting their rewards in half. Like that, I feel like people don't even talk about that. It's like you're literally cutting their rewards in half. It feels like. So, that it'll be interesting to see how, not large mining farms do.
Yeah. It's funny because it's a time when probably the entire crypto industry is happy and looks forward to it, whereas the miners are just like, oh my god, it's back around again, like it doesn't make sense why it would be good to miners. I mean, my question has always been, where's the data that suggests that some majority of the circulating supply on exchanges comes from miners, right? That's always been my biggest question. If 60% of the Bitcoin circulating supply comes from miners, and now let's cut it in half. Yes, 100%. That's going to have a massive effect. But if it's 5%, 10%, it might have a small effect, but it's not going to be something that, like you said, kind of shoots it up overnight. And my final point on this before we move on to, the final or one of the final Bitcoin topics here is, essentially that whether it's traditional finance or crypto, when everybody thinks something is going to happen, it usually doesn't, right? Like there are very kind of, there are clear indicators or clear kind of examples of history where, everybody thinks that the stock market's going to be fine, and then it goes into a massive recession, right? And right now everybody thinks the stock market's going to go into a recession, and it just keeps going. So it's time will tell. But anyway, we've got to move on here. Just as a general point, some interesting things happening with Craig Wright in that, ongoing court case that he's been going through here. But Q, as the final point here on Bitcoin, I added a link here about hashrate in China that I just wanted to mention. What's going on there?
I'm gonna be completely honest. Did not get to this link, Mike. So this was kind of the story. So I will kind of just for context. I got off a plane from Dallas this morning. Actually, this afternoon, I literally ran here and kind of threw this up. So I didn't get to this story, but basically, a single province in China controls 54% of Bitcoin's hash rate. So we've definitely heard about the dominance of mining farms in China and how that's not only related to kind of those mining farms in general, but the Chinese government. We saw everything that was happening. Was it with Huawei where they were getting government subsidies? Did you guys see that story?
I think so. Yeah.
So there's always kind of this model that the Chinese government, at least to my knowledge, over the past 6 months, of what I've learned by studying what's going on in China, from these stories, from hearing people on our interviews from China, but there's always this kind of context of when you have these private companies, they're always somehow like inexorably connected, right? Like I completely botched
What was that word?
Inexorably.
Yeah,
there you
there
go.
you go.
Sorry, I just completely blanked. But they're inexorably connected to the Chinese government. So it should be, yeah. That's all for me, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just, I brought it up because it's kind of an interesting point along the China narrative that we've talked about, where essentially within the Sichuan province, something like 54% of the global hash rate is located there. The following 31%, so as a total of 85% then, is evenly split between Washington, New York, British Columbia, Alberta, Quebec, Newfoundland, and Labrador. I don't know what that is. Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Russia, of course, Kazakhstan, Georgia, and Iran. So, it's constantly harder to argue that Bitcoin is fully decentralized, in my opinion.
I believe Kazakhstan actually just banned it. So, rip.
RIP them. They're falling off the list. But so that's Bitcoin news for you guys. Like I said, some interesting things happening with Craig Wright there. We'll keep you guys posted on the China narrative. One interesting point here, it's been talked about a little bit. I just wanted to kind of clear up is an ETH hard fork that is set to go live. It is the Muir Glacier hard fork, which essentially pushes back the difficulty bomb for Ethereum, which is originally set up to not ruin but kind of slow down the proof of work chain as ETH moves from proof of work to proof of stake. But the drama has been that many exchanges and other large miners and just kind of ecosystem participants are not ready for the hard fork because it's coming on New Year's Day. For whatever reason, ETH tends to kind of plan something and then launch it with not a lot of, news ahead of time, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody, at least in the West was like, well, what the hell? This is New Year's Day. You couldn't have picked a worse day for everybody to signal for the hard fork. But there's always
New Year, New ETH.
New Year, New ETH. I love it, man. I love it. There's always drama. I mean, it's going to be constant drama through 2020 and 2021 as ETH migrates to 2.0. But don't take it at face value. You're going to get a lot of clickbait. Yeah. I think looking into actually what's going on is going to be super important. So important.
Nice, man. Nice. Yeah, I think ETH is poised to do a lot as this staking comes around. I think they've positioned themselves well. It'll be interesting to see if ETH can battle ETH. That's really, like you said, I think 2 episodes ago, that's kind of been their biggest enemy. But speaking of ETH, we have an ETH competitor. EOS. So basically, we're just going to run through this really quick. There were 2 smaller stories. Brendan's been tweeting a lot, as we've seen over the past probably 2 or 3 weeks. One of them had to do with kind of block rewards and the issue on governance. There was kind of a tweet storm by Brendan that I'll link afterwards. But basically, if I can go through this really quick, there was an argument to be made about how centralized EOS is, and this is a conversation that always happens. We just had it with Bitcoin, but there was. Let me read some text here. It said, when mining pools control more than 50% of hash power, proof of work becomes delegated proof of work. EOS embraces that reality to deliver sub-second blocks, enormous throughput, lower network inflation, while giving voting power to token holders instead of electricity farms. So, I mean, there is an argument to be made there, right? Like there is that centralized control within Bitcoin, and it's not just proof of stake alone that has issues with this cartelization. But basically, through that conversation, he was kind of getting at that proxies are kind of the answer to the centralization that happens on EOS, right? So you have these individuals who kind of almost act as representatives of token holders. Every token holder can't go and research this stuff every day, right? Like not everyone's super involved in the EOS ecosystem every single day. So what you do is when you have let's say Brock Pierce is a great example. When Brock Pierce throws up his proxy, he's heavily involved in the EOS ecosystem. You proxy your votes to him, and basically he votes the way that you feel that he kind of embodies your values, then he's going to vote that way. So Brendan really talked about this. He actually kind of hinted at a block one proxy, which is kind of the whole reason I brought this up. So it would be interesting to see how block one goes about creating some sort of proxy, because that would, I think people have been asking for that for a long time, whether it's directly through their own tokens or through this proxy of, hey, block one has this proxy, let's vote towards them, and maybe that solves some of the governance issues. But he's firmly on the side of not changing the current structure too much, just because the free market says these Eastern block producers are quote unquote winning, right? Like there's a lot of people that want block one to come out and change the entire structure so that these other Western block producers can be in the top 21. He says no, the answer is a proxy. The answer is better voting, because that's the way it was set up, essentially.
Yeah, and I see both sides, right? I mean, I think it's really easy to be somebody who has invested a lot of money into a layer one project like an EOS or an ETH or an IOST or whatever, and kind of want to see it succeed, right? And what are the characteristics that you see, to be success. But the other side of the coin is that, okay, in this different culture, this is not really as much of a problem. And if you look at, as we have and talk to, as we have many, crypto businesses and the executives there about EOS, they don't see it being an issue, right? I think they look at it and say, okay, well, you have EOS who, again, there's an argument around decentralization or centralization, but has essentially onboarded a variety of different, quote unquote, onboarded a variety of different large crypto institutions, whether they be exchanges or whatever, onto this EOS chain. And while they might not be creating YouTube videos or kind of doing things in the in the mainstream or the public from a PR standpoint every day or every week, they have the power to do great things for that network and that blockchain behind the scenes. Right. So it's tough. I mean, I think the block one proxy is a great idea. I think block one can act as that kind of in between and act as the filter for the PR that needs to get out there versus doesn't need to get out there. So.
Yeah, we had this conversation with Malcolm too. What is a role of a block producer? And a lot of Western VPs feel like the role of a block producer shouldn't just be producing blocks. It should be, and that's what that kind of was reiterated by Malcolm. He said one of the reasons they started that was because they saw a lot of BPs, Western BPs in particular, doing all this work beyond just the baseline of producing blocks, and they weren't rewarded for that. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out going forward. Let us know what you think about, kind of this EOS proxy and the difference between, Eastern and Western BPs. That's always an interesting topic. But just a really quick thing. This came from actually Korea EOS. This is out of, and then it was, I believe, reported by EOS New York. So I'm going to read it straight from the Twitter post here. South Korean military organization MMA is allegedly planning to launch a decentralized identity application on the EOS blockchain. This was all then, I guess roughly translated from Korea EOS. It says MMA announced at DID Alliance Korea 2019 on the 22nd of December that it will introduce a decentralized identity based on the blockchain based digital service signature service. So this is a pretty significant story. It wasn't made into a blog post. This wasn't like posted by any authority. I think it just came out from some type of conference event. It looks like Korea, based on the tweets, it looks like Korea is making this push for digitalized identity. And we've talked about reputation and how that all plays in as we go forward, and how excited we are for that / kind of scared. But it looks like, and this looks like it's just going to use EOS.io tech. So it'll be interesting. It's a super interesting debate about whether any of these chains that have already been created, or the decentralized identity for the Korean military flows back into some type of value for EOS in general, like the main chain in general. But this is a pretty cool story, although we don't have much information. So.
Yeah, it's whether it's this news about EOS or it's the TRON news, I think the crypto community tends to kind of stick to its guns and not really want to change them, right? Especially around values of decentralization or kind of really whatever it may be, right? Everybody kind of falls into a different camp, but you know, you do your own research, right? If you see value being accrued in some kind of more quote unquote centralized way, then it is what it is. I mean, there's an interesting kind of as the final point here, the final piece of news. An interesting thing happening with IOST, or continuing to happen with IOST in China, is their really collaboration with the Chinese government in one way or another. So Terrence, the CTO, was invited as pretty much the only crypto project, which to me was significant, to speak at what is called China's Great Hall of the People, which is very much a kind of a formal event where China, the government puts on this event, this kind of presentation series that talks about all the things that they're going to be doing. I would imagine from kind of like a new tech standpoint. So Terrence represented IOST, talked about the use of blockchain within China, and along the same lines of EOS or a TRON, where it isn't following the same path or the same route that Bitcoin has or even ETH has, but is seemingly doing things that are, I guess kind of broadly getting the word out and utilizing the underlying tech for that project. So I think it's a fantastic point you made, Q, and it's not a question that anyone has an answer to about how that fundamental value delivers, an appreciating token price, right? Yeah. I mean, no one's really been able to prove that one way or another, and we really haven't seen a good example of that happening yet. So,
yeah. Me?
Dean was looking me in the eyes. He was enthralled.
JK's in the chat. He's talking about quantum. I'm not really sure what you want us to talk about there, JK. So if you want us to talk about quantum in some sort or fashion, what exactly do you want us to talk about there? We'll get to that if you do. IOST's made some good moves, like at the enterprise level and the government level. I think they're attacking Japan super hard, which I think is kind of which I feel like is kind of like a sleeping giant, because they're really being efficient about this regulation process, so that like if your cryptocurrency or if your platform does eventually get access to the Japanese people, citizens, users, yada yada yada, investors, I think that is a big boon for whichever platform can do that. So I definitely keep a lookout for Japan in the future. Other than that, I think I would love to see more IOST. I would love to see more user-facing IOST features come out. I think we're talking about I guess user acquisition within the IOST Global Alliance. We're talking about a bunch of things that we'd like to see IOST do. They're certainly doing this with governments. They're certainly doing this with enterprise, but not so much on the user side. And that, I think, I would love to see more from IOST. But this is definitely a good step. The fact that Terry's coming out there and putting his face in front of IOST, kind of being the face of the franchise there. So.
I'm pretty sure he was the only one there, like out of the crypto side blockchain. Yeah. He was like pretty much the face of blockchain crypto,
which is wild,
to like the Kremlin of China,
right?
So it's a pretty big deal. Yeah, there's actually a video on it too, in our channel, I believe, of him like walking up and stuff.
Yeah, take a look. And guys, we're always trying to bring you, hottest news, breaking news, interesting facts or points or whatever about the leading blockchain projects. We're going to be, I know we focused on IOST, Tezos, EOS, BNB a little bit, but we're going to be expanding out a little bit more, talking about some others like your Cardano, your Bitcoin Cash, your IOTA
plus token,
plus now. But if there are any projects, maybe Quantum was one of those projects, right? If there's anything there that you've been following for a while that is super interesting, drop us a comment. Talk to us about why you like that project, why you're following it, and we'll take a look and cover it here. And final week here coming up to enter that $250 Bitcoin giveaway. So
boom, I still have a chance.
Not really.
Not really, but we still have one spot. So yes, definitely get on that. If you guys are super active during this week, we'll add you next week and we'll put you in that pool, and then we'll do it live. So man, this is the last episode of Layer1Live for the year, man, for
Oh,
2019.
man.
Layer 1 kind of was created in 2019. I think we'll always remember that it was created. We do have to get to this. Hey, what was your best part of crypto within this year? And then what you're looking forward to in 2020. I guess I'll start since I'm already freaking talking. My favorite part of 2019 was starting this Layer 1. I think like being able to interview really smart minds in the space and get their, what they are, what they introspect about and what they talk about on a day-to-day basis, and just, gaining knowledge from them. So I'm definitely interested in that. As far as 2020 goes, I think voice is going to be super interesting for me. I think people might be putting a little bit too much on the shoulders of voice to kind of carry EOS and the EOS token price. But beyond that, I think I'm super excited about voice. So that's my 2020. What do you guys got?
You want to go or?
Yeah, I can go. Yeah, so I mean, for this year, I was definitely excited to see how derivatives market and BTC came out. That was fantastic. Like so many different products came out, and so many tools. Like, platform like Bybit came out, which was like compared to like BitMEX of as far as the user interface and what kind of functions they have on there to manage the risk and so on. I really like that, and I think a lot of people in crypto don't really know how to manage risk. They haven't been trading before, so they just 100x and go. But I think the derivatives market and specifically in futures, perpetual swaps has really like came up in 2019. It's really excited about the platform itself and the support that those platforms provide are fantastic compared to like what we had to deal with before in the past.
Right.
So
what do you think for 2020?
For 2020, I'm looking forward to the French ICO. No, for 2020, I think there's another opportunity that needs to be worked out within the options market in BTC. I think that's going to be huge, and I'm excited for that as well because that's going to be, just as big, if not even bigger, than the perpetual swaps that we've been dealing with because the options themselves, the product is just fantastic. So I'm looking forward to see that being built out more, and then essentially that will translate into a better price discovery for BTC, like I've already mentioned multiple times before. So, sorry, I'm in the Dimitri's desk mode for the both years, but that's kind of what I see.
Nice. Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. I think 2019, I don't know that I had a really specific event that was my favorite. It's tough to say. I mean, if it was an event, I think Consensus, going to that in New York with you guys and some other team members was an absolute blast.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. But in general, I was really happy to see crypto continue to kind of move along and really mature into a new asset class. I think that is going to be kind of the next wave that crypto sees here over the next handful of years, where instead of, say just Bitcoin as a store of value asset, I think we see the entire market, whether it's derivatives or spot or kind of, all the various narratives and niches that you see within crypto, I think will emerge as a larger asset class. And with that, you will see a ton of private fundraising, a ton of, enterprise and kind of private blockchain action, but also at the same time, a lot of crazy public market, kind of quote unquote public market crypto chaos happening as well. For 2020, I'm going to predict that, just as we've seen many times before, that alts will pop back up and melt faces. It's one that I think Q's making the sign of the cross over here. This, to me, this is no different than kind of the last cycle that we saw. We saw a lot of bearish news for alts. We saw a lot of boredom. But I think there are a handful, both new and established, non-Bitcoin crypto assets that are going to just absolutely crush it. So, hope you guys are on the right side of it. I think I definitely don't think we're going to see something like we saw in 2017, where literally anything you put your money into,
that was
crazy.
insane. This is the
Hashtag
purge that,
substratum.
you know.
Hashtag substratum.
Yeah, this is the purge that we needed, you know, basically to reshuffle.
Yeah, but I think we're a long way to go until fundamentals actually dictate value.
Yeah.
You know, I think we're going to see a lot of, you know, half alive projects go absolutely bonkers in price. But anyway, those are our predictions. I know you got to run, Q. You've got probably like a black tie event or something like that. So
I have a Pirates game to go to, obviously. But you heard it here first from Mike the Bull Finch. That might be his new name. If you're that bullish on alts, I will literally do whatever it takes. Please. I will sacrifice.
We know who's holding bags.
be like that guy on the Netflix.
Yeah.
Shoot, I saw him in the commercial. What was the event that they threw? It was a complete disaster.
Oh, the Firefest, yeah.
Firefest, it'd be like Firefest guy. I was
Yeah.
prepared to do anything for my alts to pump.
Yeah.
that is one thing I'm worried about, that any rally is going to get sold off. But yeah, man, this has been a great time. Again, like we said, Layer 1 kind of started in 2019, and we're looking to finish the year strong. Thanks for everybody that kind of came along on this ride, that followed us over from Sutler Ventures, from ICO Alert. Man, it's been a great year. We've had many, actually a couple good years together now. You know, after ICO Alert. So we appreciate all the love that you guys have given us. We're looking to make this better and better, man. Like 2020, I think Barry just said we're the 2019 TRON making moves.
Hey.
So that might be good, that might be bad, be associated with TRON, but it looks like they are making moves. So hopefully in 2020, guys, we can really make this podcast as good as it can be, and do everything, you know, in our power to make it, you know, good content for you guys. So again, we appreciate it. One last time, Happy New Year, 2020. We'll see you guys on the other side. But that's about it.
Yeah, for sure. We always, you know, we want to be a resource for you guys, 100%. Bringing you the news, insight. You know, obviously it's never financial advice, but yeah. Happy New Year's, Dean.
Yeah.
Happy New Year's, Q.
Happy New Year. Pop bottles.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Later.